This is an insane code from the Microsoft camp. Like, unbelievable. I believe I released a statement predicting that this would happen, but like, I don't remember where it was. I don't know if it was on Discord or if I said it in a video or like what have you. But I do believe I made a statement about this. But now it has come to pass. Microsoft has not only raised the price of all of their games to a full $80, they have also raised the price of their 5-year-old console, the Xbox Series X. That's right. The Xbox Sex is now $100 more expensive than it was yesterday. So if you're looking to get this overpriced piece of slop that won't be on the market for a couple of years from now, yeah, you're shot of luck, buddy. Probably should have bought a Switch 2 instead. Which, by the way, is now the budget option. Now that we know that like Microsoft and Sony are raising their prices, it's safe to say that Steam will as well, making Nintendo by far the most affordable option. So basically, after all that doom and gloom, all that coping and seething about Nintendo Switch 2 being too expensive, we're going to see every single major YouTuber, gaming journalists, and analysts like bend over backwards to try and like justify what Xbox has done. You know, they're still going to go out and they're going to support these $80 games. They're going to support the console. They're going to keep doing their things after they had sworn off Nintendo for supposedly selling games at $80. By the way, they're not. The new standard for them is 70. So, like, after that entire exaggerated cope, Angry Joe lying to people, saying that Nintendo was selling games for at $90, here's Microsoft actually doing that. And it's safe to say that, like, going into next gen, going into, like, the Sex 2, like it's only going to get more expensive. People are already talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 being at least $100. It's very possible that it might be more than that. And like these people are going to like, eat that slop up because like they don't have anything else to play, but that just sets a bad precedent for the rest of the industry. They're all going to try raising their prices. They're all going to try to scam the consumer more and more, and people are going to buy less games. And that means that they're only going to pay for the high quality premium content on Nintendo consoles. The only piece of hardware that is worth the money, that is worth the price of admission, that is like, will keep you entertained endlessly. Like Nintendo Switch 2 is set to dominate this console generation. And the narrative right now is like, well, I'm glad I got a gaming PC. That's so much less expensive. Like what? Gaming PCs require like what? Like at least $5,000. To set up to make sure that like everything is optimized correctly and that I can run everything. And then you have to keep upgrading it after that. Like this idea that like this is something that will like last you indefinitely and be like is some cost effective way to play games is just a giant cope. Like it always was, but like you're going to see like PCs getting more and more expensive as well. This idea that they're not is just a laughably off base. To me, I think that's a really good indication that like the PC master race doesn't actually know what they're talking about, because do they really believe that the price of PC parts aren't going to be affected by the economy and by the tariffs and stuff like that? Do they really think they're just going to be like exempt from that? Like, do they think they'll be able to pirate everything without being sent to prison? Like, it's just straight up delusional. And it does need to be called out for what it is. It's just a giant cope. Like everything when it comes to anti Nintendo discourse in this day and age is a code. And like this entire like console hype cycle, like this entire console cycle of like the Switch 2 being announced and everybody like demonizing it for like a couple of weeks and then it becoming like this huge deal. Like it proves to us a couple of things. Like first of all, just how little influence the online gaming community actually has on online discourse. I talk about that a lot. I have been talking about that a lot over the years, but like it is positively shocking to me just how much the narrative contrasted with reality. Like you had so many people like crying about the Switch 2's price, and then when you look around, at the market and see how expensive everything else is, suddenly the overpriced Nintendo hardware is suddenly the most affordable option. Nothing has changed on that front. So again, I can't take people who like cry about this thing seriously. It's just so completely out of touch. So yeah, like the online gaming community is not indicative of the actual market. Okay, we've established that a long time ago. It's proven itself true this time, and like I think secondly, we do need to talk about how Nintendo has pretty much like demolished every narrative against them to the point where like I honestly don't really see any real criticisms of the company in this day and age. Like it's crazy like the kind of shit you see on message boards that gets paraded around as an actual criticism but isn't really, like one of the big things I always hear, Nintendo doesn't produce new IPs. That's like such a huge cope and so out of touch with reality because every time they introduce a new RP, like Arms or Dragon Drive, like I'm not interested in that. But like okay, but like you're asking for new IPs, like again, like if you want like something like Zelda, you can just play Zelda. If you want Mario, you can just play Mario. Like these these copes, the classic copes of like pretending Nintendo doesn't have RPGs, pretending Nintendo doesn't make mature games for mature gamers, pretending that like Nintendo censors games, pretending that PlayStation is this cool trendy console, pretending that Nintendo is out of touch and hasn't been good in like 10, 20 years. All of these giant copes have just kind of imploded upon themselves in the past decade to the point where like I don't believe like the current gaming establishment is ever going to be able to adapt to it. Like Polygon just fired a bunch of their people after getting bought out. Like, and again, that's not the only story we've heard. Like whenever I see the words former Nintendo employees on like a tweet or like a message or something, like I immediately know it's Kit and Krista and know to disregard it and never to pay attention to like again, people are seeing through these kinds of people. They're seeing through the gaming journalism lies. They're becoming aware of the stereotypes. And like more and more people are beginning to realize what the actual problem is. Like the unwarranted Sony worship coupled with like the unreasonable contempt for Nintendo. Like it's gotten out of hand. It got out of hand like even 10, 15 years ago. And now we're seeing like the end result of that, where people are slowly beginning to realize that the Nintendo hate was completely, completely wrong. And they are discovering just how great this company actually is. There is no getting around it. Nintendo has won.